Hi, it's me, Tara, again. So, I wanted to kind of go over a few of the things that kind of pushed me from being away from an atheist, and if not quite a Christian yet. And this is a story I've told to several people in real life, and I also wanted to share it with any video blog viewers. Someone on Reddit asked, how did you leave your previous religion? And it was actually many different things. I was an atheist, and I had some interesting experiences, and this video is going to be about one of them in particular. The first thing that had to happen to me before I could come to accept Christ into my heart was that I had to also accept that empirical knowledge is not the beginning and end of everything. And one of the things that caused me to experience that epiphany was back when I was still dabbling in paganism and trying to find a sort of meaning or mysticism and ritual in my life. I was dating this girl. Actually, she was really my fiance, and she was a witch, among other things. We actually both together went to an organization, a meetup group that was dedicated towards modern day witches, and that was one of the things I was trying to explore, because I was an atheist, but I kept having these sorts of doubts, or perhaps a crisis of doubt, where I just kind of felt that I needed to have something to fill that void in my heart. I was engaged at the time, and we went to this ritual for Samhain, or Halloween as it's called. It was called the Feast of the Dead. The way it worked was we were having a great feast, and we were inviting the ghosts of the dead to it. People invited different people. One person invited their grandmother. I didn't invite my grandmother because I knew she was a conservative Christian and would not want to participate in a pagan ritual, even as a ghost. One person actually invited a giraffe, of all things. They were a zookeeper, and they had this sort of relationship with this giraffe and had sort of been friends with this giraffe, and the giraffe had passed away from old age. So she actually invited a giraffe with her. But for me, I didn't know that many dead people. There was this one guy who used to run games for us. He ran a D20 Modern style apocalypse game that wasn't terribly popular because, to be honest, he really wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, and when he was alive, I didn't get along with him that much because of his hygiene issues, but he did seem to be a nice guy, and when I heard that he had passed away, it did make me very sad to hear that, because, he didn't deserve to die. How he died, a friend had told me, a friend named Bruce told me Chris died when he was working on an engine, and apparently he had lifted the engine up out of the hood of the engine using bed sheets because he didn't have the appropriate tools, and then he worked under the engine, and gravity took effect, and Bruce told me that he had died because of that, which is, kind of a sad way to go, even if it is a little bit, yeah, even if it was not the brightest way to go, it did make me sad to hear that he had passed away. We had a ritual, and we had our feast, and we then sent the ghost home, and I was asked if I could sense Chris's presence, and I told them I could not. I didn't really sense him there. The next day I had this Dungeons and Dragons game, but not everyone showed up. Also, the store that we were supposed to be playing in didn't have a free table, so I had everyone that did show up, which was only 2 people. We moved to a different game store that was down the street a ways, and to be honest, that particular game store wasn't very good. The new game store that we had moved to was much, much better. It had much more space and was just definitely more geared towards tabletop and board games. I was trying to get the game set up, trying to figure out how I was going to get everything, the story straight with a fraction of the number of people and such, and how I was going to run the game, how I was going to retailer the encounters to account for there not being a fighter or a cleric there, which was going to be really awkward. And while I was getting in line at the store to buy a soda, right behind me, a guy comes in, standing right behind me, and I get this sort of whiff of his garbage and BO smell, and then I turn around and it's Chris, and he's alive in the flesh. I hadn't seen him in years, and this was a guy who I had been told was dead. Needless to say, I was pretty surprised seeing him. I was awed, actually. I asked him about it. I told him, I was like, hey, I thought you were dead, and he said, no, I'm not dead. It's like, but Bruce told me you were. He's like, yeah, but Bruce hates me. It's like, well, okay then. But yeah, he was alive. And yeah, we got to talking, and then I suddenly realized maybe I probably shouldn't have summoned him, because yeah, I kind of started to remember why I didn't really like talking to him. We go outside. He has a smoke, which is a little bit better because it does cover the nasty smell. The smoke does cover up the rest of him, but yeah, we kind of catch up with each other. I haven't seen him since, though. It was a few years ago. I asked him why he showed up, and he told me, well, you know, I hadn't been to the store in a while, and I just had this incredible urge to come here. He couldn't really describe why he even came to the store. He just felt an urge that he couldn't describe. What this did was it really shook my sense of doubt. It really shook my certainty that we live in an empirical reality. Now, yes, I know, of course, this could have been a coincidence. I tried to rationalize it as such, but at the time, man, what a coincidence. It really kind of gave me a sense that maybe there is something more out there. That maybe what I thought to be completely true wasn't as completely true. Maybe it was such that there was a sort of magic in the world, that there was sort of some being out there. Now, it took me a while for me to make that connection to actually start believing in God. That was another story. But yeah, it was a very spiritual experience, and it was definitely a story I started repeating going forward. So yeah, that was kind of stage one. There were other things, and I've covered them in other videos, but yeah, that was the very beginning of my awakening to realizing also that there is a sort of power out there.